There it goes. 101, Mercy. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check. Can everybody hear me? Can y'all hear me? Mostly, for the most. What? Speak a little louder. Is this too loud online? Probably. I better turn this down. Let me see. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I haven't done this in a few months. I gotta get my. It's too loud. People online are like, stop yelling. I'm not yelling. I'm talking normal. Why is it so loud? I'm gonna. Right here, you think? I'll just bring this down. Bring down the max. Does that help? Check 1, 2. What would I do without you? But now I can make it louder in here, can't I? If I knew how to do that. Check 1, 2. Check. It's not that one. I'm just going to keep turning these knobs till something happens. Check 1, 2. Yay! I learned you can't break it. That's not true. You can. I'll fix this again. Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm just fiddling with my stuff. Okay. Hello. How is everybody? Good? Wonderful? All right. So we're close. We're good. Hello. Great. I feel like it's too loud now. It's just for the people online. Maybe. That's for you all too. Okay. I know. It is helpful, right? It is helpful. All right. Well, it's good to see all of your smiling faces this evening. We will be just about an hour or so. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, welcome in. And those of you who are old timers, gluttons for punishment is what you are. I do have another card. I wanted to give this to Mark because this is Mark's gospel reading, and I just think that that's funny. But Mark's busy doing church stuff, and so I'm curious if someone wants to read from the Gospel of Mark later. You going to read from the Gospel of Mark? Thank you. You lucked out. You checking me? Not the greatest. Oh. Is it me? I need to figure that out. It'll be all right, I'm sure. Some reverb. I don't see that as a setting in here. All right. Okay. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with what we're doing, what we'll do is we'll hop into Matthew here in a little bit. I want to give you the scope of where we're going and what we're doing. As we always begin like a new book of the Bible on Wednesday nights, we're always trying to find our feet, I think, before we kind of hit our stride. So we'll trip and fumble a little bit, and that's okay, I think, especially with it being the first Bible study of the year since we took the summer off. So we just came out of Exodus 4 months ago, something like that, 3 months ago. And then before that, what were we in? Were we in Nahum before that? And then before that, we were in Galatians or something like that. And then it was Genesis before that. So we've been around and about.
We did Numa.
Yes, and it was good. So we did Esther. I forgot about Esther. That was good. We did Ruth. Look at you all. My little pastor heart is so proud. We did Jonah. It was good. So as we get into this, we'll have a number of things to encounter. We will not read every single chapter, similar to what we did with Exodus. I figured ain't no one got time to sit in here for 27 weeks and read, every single chapter. So if you want to read the whole book, do it on your own time. But I did provide a guideline for where we're going over the next 12 weeks. We might get messed up in October a little bit because there's fall break in here somewhere, and I might take my family somewhere. We don't know yet. But August and September are pretty locked in, I think. So bear with me, but this will be the breakout of Matthew. So if you're ever curious about what chunks of Matthew we're going to read, it'll be within those sections. Full disclosure, I have never taught Matthew before, so this is new for me. I have taught, for many years, I taught Mark, and for many years I've taught the Gospel of John. I have never taught Luke. It scares me. And I have never taught Matthew. It also scares me. And I've confirmed my fears in trying to study and get up to speed on this. But I think there will be some good stuff tonight. So as we begin, is it all right if we begin with the word of prayer? And we'll just settle in for a moment. I got to empty my pockets, and we'll be good. Let's pray. Yeah, Holy God, we just take a breath and slow down. For many of us, we've come from work, or we've come from school, or we've come from Culver's, or we've come from home. We've come from a busy day of this and that. And so we're just grateful for the time to slow down and be together, to open up your scriptures, and to expect to encounter you. So as we read these words written long before any of us were ever born, we pray that you would speak through them, for we, your servants, are listening. We pray in your Son's name. Amen. All right, there's a fly in here. If you kill it, 10 points. All right, so as we begin, we are going to look at a couple of the Gospels tonight. We'll look at all four, actually, and we're also going to look at Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 through 17. We're not going to get the back half of Matthew chapter 1 because there's so much to talk about, and I want to do our best to set as much of a foundation as possible. So the handout that I handed out it has the menorah on the front right here, and this is from Ben Witherington. It's published by Oxford. Those of you who've been here with me before know that I believe in truth in advertising, and Ben Witherington is a more conservative scholar. But those of you who also know me know that I read pretty broadly. So I read conservative biblical scholars, and I read pretty liberal biblical scholars, and everything in between. But just truth in advertising, Ben's a pretty conservative guy. He teaches at Asbury, last I checked. And he's meat and potatoes. So that's why I think it's pretty good to start with him, because it's like jazz. You can't break the rules of music until you know the rules of music. So learn the scale and then break them. So with Ben, we will learn the scale, and that's helpful, I hope. If you disagree with Ben, that's okay. Feel free to. All right, so here are a couple questions to get us started. One is, what is a gospel? The second is I want to compare the beginning stories of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then I want to look at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and talk about kind of how they might have been composed, and then we'll hop into the text. Sound good? Even if you said no, that's still what we're doing, because that's what the slides are, right? You have no choice in the matter. So before I kind of let the cat out of the bag, how would you describe gospel, other than a genre of music? As my grandma might say. Good news. What else?
It's a story. It's a letter.
It's a letter or a story. Did you say stories? So far we're right. You're not wrong. Yeah, I'm just seeing if there's anything else percolating in your head. Have you ever had someone do the door-to-door evangelism thing, right? And they knock on the door and say, "Have you heard the good news of Jesus Christ?" And I always say, "No, thank you," and I close the door, right? I already have one. Yeah, right? So, I don't know, I always think of gospel, I always think of like a door-to-door salesman or a door-to-door missionary trying to hand me the tract and tell me about Jesus.
Well, Matthew writes as though he knew Jesus.
Yes, Matthew's writing with some intimate knowledge, it appears. Which is wonderful, Missy. You have great eyes. Great memory. Great eyes, though, of recognizing that the Gospels have different perspectives. Like, nod your head. You're with me. This is a true statement. John writes very differently than Luke, and Luke writes very differently than Mark, and Mark writes very differently than Matthew. And that's what makes teaching them sometimes so difficult. Because if you're like me, you're like, "Oh, I know that story." But it's like, if I pushed you, I was like, "Well, where is it?" "Yeah, which one?" And you go, "Oh, it's in the Gospels." Well, duh. But which one? And you're like, "Oh, crap, I forget," So there are some stories that are very particular to some Gospels and some that are shared. And some of the content that's shared is found in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And those are called the synoptic Gospels, or the same Gospels. They pull from some of the same material. Okay, so let's get a little more specific about a gospel here as we get going. So the word gospel in Greek is euangelion. And within the New Testament, it refers to either the act of preaching, so getting up and giving the good news preacher, right? That's like giving the euangelion. That's what you're supposed to do. Or it can actually also pertain to its contents. So the gospel, like the contents of the gospel. That's the gospel. Outside the New Testament, the word refers to happy announcements, like a military victory, birth of a son. Sorry, ladies, right? Not good news. But birth of a son, that's good news. Or a wedding, that would be good news. Again, these are extra biblical examples. Right? You can go find it in the archaeological record. It'll say, the Gospel of Josh and Jennifer. Join us on May 31st, right? That's literally what it says. The Evangelion of Josh and Jennifer. It's the wedding. It's the good news. It's a good announcement. Or you might say the Evangelion, the good news that Nazi Germany has surrendered. Yeah, Japan next, right? That would be that would be an example. They didn't really say that, but you take the historical example, it would be like, Gaul capitulated and now Romans own the Gallic territory. That would be the good news of the Caesar conquering that area.
Putin goes home.
Right. That would be the Evangelion, the good news. So in particular, there's extant material of this right here. This is a real picture of a slab, and it is inscribed with Greek, and it's been inscribed in a couple different languages, but that's Greek. And so this is the Res Gestae, or Gestae, excuse me, that's Latin. It was housed outside the mausoleum of Augustus Caesar. Augustus Caesar, like the guy, the reason why we have the month August. It was after his death, and it's now in a museum in Turkey. And this is what it reads. It says, the birthday of the god, talking about Augustus Caesar, the birthday of the god was for the world the beginning of Evangelion. So I'll read it again. The birthday of the god was for the world, the beginning of good news, or the gospel, or the joyful message, which have gone forth because of him. So this is how it would have been understood. The gospel is the birth of Julius Caesar.
So does Caesar mean like C-Z-A-R?
Caesar.
I don't know how it's spelled there, but is it the same as C-Z-A-R?
Oh, as czar?
As he is Augustus the king?
My Russian is a little rusty.
Well,
I don't know.
not here.
Yeah, I think that it is similar.
Because it's Julius Caesar.
Yes.
And Augustus Caesar, and I don't think that's
It's a title.
Yeah, I think
It's a title.
title.
Yes, it is a title. So you can,
I never thought of it before.
yeah, so you can hear that that's the good news. The good news is that Caesar was born. And that's how it's used outside of the Bible. So it's interesting when you encounter that word in the New Testament that it hasn't been used that way before. Does that make sense? So when the gospel writers, even when I say that, the gospel writers, that's a weird thing to say. Like, let's play, like, rewind the tape, which is, I'm dating myself, but, start the movie over. So go all the way back, and you are back in, like, the 1st century, right? You're in Rome, and someone says, hey, good news, Julius Caesar was born. That would make sense to you. But if someone said, have you heard the good news of Jesus Christ, you would say, I don't know what you're talking about. So even the word, like, gospel or gospel writers is a weird thing to say, and has to do with these 4 books of the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Okay, so I want to compare the beginning of these gospel texts, and I had handed out some 3x5 cards. If you have those, I need your help to find these little selections here, and we're just going to compare them and just hear the differences that we have. We're doing fine. So, nice and loud, who's got Matthew for us? All right, if you want to read it real loud so folks can hear you, and what she's reading is right here. You can follow along if you want. But we're going to read Matthew 1:1. We're going to skip 17 verses. Don't worry, we'll read it in a little bit. Then we'll go 18 through 2 through 3. 2 verse 3. Go ahead.
Matthew 1:1, a record of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. 1:18, this is how the birth of Jesus Christ came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be with child through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was a righteous man and did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Jesus woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord, when Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded, and took Mary home as his wife. But he had no union with her until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw this star in the east and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so that's the beginning of Matthew. We skipped a chunk, right? We skipped 17 verses of genealogy. Ho hum, boring, boring, boring. But don't worry, that's what we're going to read tonight. So that was what we skipped. Okay, so keep that in the back of your head. Let's go to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 1, verses 1 through 5, and verse 9. If someone who has Mark wants to read that nice and loud, we can turn there with you if you want, or just listen. Listen in.
Mark 1, the beginning of the gospel about Jesus Christ, the Son of God. It is written in Isaiah the prophet, "I will send my messenger ahead of you, and who will prepare your way. A voice of one calling in the desert, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him." And so John came, baptizing in the desert region, and preaching a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sin. The whole Judean countryside and all the people of Jerusalem went out to him. Confessing their sins, they were baptized by him in the Jordan River. Verse 9. At that time, Jesus came from Nazareth in Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan.
Thank you. Wonderful. So that's sort of the beginning of Mark. Okay, Luke. Let's hold our breaths. Here we go. Who's got Luke? We'll go to chapter 1, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John.
You ready?
I'm almost there with you. We will jump around. All right, here we go.
Many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the first were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. With this in mind, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I too decided to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the certainty of the things you have been taught. In the time of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah, who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife Elizabeth was also a descendant of Aaron. Okay, 26.
Yeah, let's turn the page for me.
Okay. In the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The virgin's name was Mary. The angel went to her and said, "Greetings." Sorry, lost my place because I looked up to see where to stop. "You are highly favored, and the Lord is with you." Mary was greatly troubled at his words and wondered what kind of greeting this might be. But the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end."
Wonderful. And then we'll pick up again in chapter 2, verse 1, and then we'll skip to 6 and 7.
Okay. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them.
Wonderful. All right, so hold that in your head, and we'll go to John, the Gospel of John, which is the next one, chapter 1, 1 through 7.
was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness compressed, and the darkness compressed, and it is not. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. The same came for a witness, with the witness, to bear witness of the life, that all men through him might be believed.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're great. You did great. All right, so what did you notice? I'm just curious.
Different beginnings.
Different beginnings. Different beginnings.
Same
Um,
characters.
Sorry?
Same characters.
Same characters. There's this dude named John. Same story. There's a dude named Jesus. Mary. So, who is like the main character sort of in Matthew? Not a trick question. You might say Joseph. I think that's a fair assumption. Who is the main character in Luke? Nice and loud. Mary. Yeah. And of course, it's kind of a trick question because it really begins with Zechariah, and then Elizabeth, is that right? Is that her name? And then she is pregnant with John the Baptist. So you could say it's like the whole entire John the Baptist is the main character, which is funny because then the narrator pulls like a gotcha, right? And later it's not even about John the Baptist, but it started with him. But John the Baptist is found in all three of the synoptics. He's there at the beginning. And we didn't really find John the Baptist in Matthew because we didn't read deep enough. Because Matthew's going to talk for quite some time about other stuff. And that's okay. So, we heard the different voices, different perspectives. Doing okay so far? Any questions? All right, let me just say a couple things off the top of my head here. Off the top of my head, I mean, from my notes. All right, I wanted to compare some other things in the Gospels. So just hear these things. Mark is the first Gospel to record an empty tomb. We're going to assume, what most people assume, is that Mark was written first. Now, do we know that for sure? No. And everyone who wrote Mark is dead. And so we can't go back and ask them. So we're just going to assume that Mark was written first. There's probably material that was floating around before the Gospel of Mark, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I got a wonderful illustration. Wait. There we go. And so Mark was written first, and then Matthew probably borrows from Mark. And Matthew, I'm going to disappear if you're watching online. Matthew probably borrows from another source over here called M. And then there's probably this other source that's floating around out in existence called Q. And Q, we get it from the German word Quell. My German's pretty terrible. But it means like writings. It's like the teachings or sayings of Jesus. And so Matthew and Luke probably pull from Q. And the reason why they suspect this is because these writings and sayings of Jesus, like the Sermon on the Mount, it's not found in Mark. So does that mean Jesus didn't do it? Mark didn't write it. Mark's like, I ain't got time for that. You know, that's going to take 2 whole chapters. So we're moving on. But, you know, Matthew's like, no, this is important. And Luke's going to say, well, it was like this instead. Again, and Luke also puts it in a different place. And so that raises the question, well, why? Why the difference? And that's another question for another night. But that's the Q source, is their sayings of Jesus. Again, this is hypothetical. It's a hypothesis. No one can prove Q, no one can prove M, and no one can prove L. The only thing we have are what is called extant texts, which is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Did you get it yet? You're so close. So close. And there's some other Gospels as well floating around, but that's for another time as well. So L is for the material that is just found in Luke, primarily. So here are the things. Mark is the first to record the empty tomb. There are also no claims of a virgin birth in the gospel. If you only read the Gospel of Mark, you would not know about the virgin birth. And if that doesn't blow your mind, it blew my mind. You know, I was like, what? Surely the whole Virgin Mary thing's in Mark. You go back and read, you go, it's not there. Mark forgot to do his homework. You know? Okay, I'm going to keep going here. It gets weirder. There's no claims of Bethlehem origin in the Gospel of Mark. You heard it, like he's all of a sudden Jesus is getting baptized in the Jordan. Dude, what happened to the first 30 years of your life? Mark's moving on. There's no claims of post-resurrection sightings in the Gospel of Mark. Yeah, I see some eyebrows raising. I know. Don't blame me, blame the Bible. So go read Mark, and I can't make it up. You read, you go, well, that's weird. Why is it not there? Mark has a different purpose of writing. That's why. And then there's no claims of ascension in the Gospel of Mark. It ends with the disciples being afraid. And you would be too if someone was like, he rose from the dead. You know, it was crazy. Okay, I'm going to move on. Matthew is the first record of the virgin birth, has the origins in Bethlehem. Matthew has the guards at the tomb, the story at Easter we tell, that's in Matthew, and the whole entire angel at the tomb, that's also in Matthew. Luke/Acts, okay? Luke and Acts are written by the same person. So maybe that's what we could read next. You know, so if you read Luke, you're going to have to read Acts. They go together. This has the whole entire post-resurrection Jesus who's eating, appearing in places, and sort of like this veiled knowledge of him. They're like, we thought it was him. It wasn't quite him. We didn't quite know. It has the whole entire ascension to heaven, has the Pentecost scene, and it even tells us about the disciples being martyred. Like if you only read Mark and Matthew, you would think the disciples are alive and well. You know? You don't know the whole story. Luke's going to tell you, as he says, I have set out to write an orderly account, most excellent Theophilus. Sit your butt down because I got 28 chapters of this stuff, and I got a whole other book called Acts. And so he's going to go and do his whole thing. If you read just John, you're going to realize that Jesus is God. It's the God-man. It's the incarnation. It's the Logos, right, the divine word, that puts on sarx, the Greek word for flesh. Sarx and Logos don't mix. They're not supposed to mix. If you read John, John says this is the whole point. They do mix. It has 7 I am statements. Jesus says, like, I am the bread of life. I am the gate. I am the good shepherd. He says, before Abraham was, I am. And then the Jews tried to kill him because that's blasphemy. That's all in the Gospel of John. It's not in Matthew, Mark, or Luke. It has Lazarus' resurrection, and there's a long discourse with Pilate, which has Jesus' famous words to Pilate, Pilate's famous words to Jesus, what is truth? That's all found in the Gospel of John. It's not in the Synoptics. So they're different. Isn't that interesting? Now.
That's kind of why the chronological Bible is different.
Yes, it could be helpful.
It starts, what they just read.
Yep.
Is the start.
All kind of intermingled in there. Yeah. Now we have a little bit of time here. We'll linger for a moment.
Isn't it interesting that there is a different perspective presented within the Bible?
So let's talk about that. Let's kick this around a little bit. Why?
Because everybody sees things the way they see them.
No. If God came down, there's only one way to view this sucker. God is here, and you all are wrong, and Jesus is right. So this is the challenge. Why are there differing perspectives? Help me. Help your pastor. I'm losing my faith.
I'm of your faith. I still think it's because they see it through different eyes or heard it through different.
Okay, so help me understand that perspective more. You think that they heard it or saw it differently. But they are not all eyewitness accounts, though.
They heard it or saw it. I said heard it.
Okay, so they hear the story differently? So they just record it as they hear it,
Or as they remember.
or as they remember it.
Or as it was told to them and other people remembered it.
Yeah,
There's
there you
a
go.
part. Playing the game telephone.
Okay, so does this mean, I I'm poking holes here. Does this mean it got changed?
Oh, could be.
Could be.
Well, wasn't some of this eyewitness stuff though?
This is the question. So, okay, let's kick this around a little bit. Let's assume that we know that the author of John is John. And by that we mean the beloved disciple, eyewitness dude, right? So he would have been by Jesus' side, he would have seen this, and he writes it down. Some of the challenges with that is that the Gospel of John is written much later, and is probably finished by John's community. But again, they're all dead, we don't know. Matthew, if that is Levi, the tax collector, that's first-hand information. And that's why a lot of people think Matthew has this source called M, which is his good news, right, of Jesus, and he's writing it down from his perspective. Mark, if it's John Mark, if it's the disciple who flees naked, it's in the Bible, look it up, then that's not necessarily first-hand. It's not one of the 12. And Luke was not a disciple. He was a doctor. He was a physician. So yes, some of it is first-hand, and some of it's not.
Well, if 4 people witnessed a wreck, they would each have a different way of saying version of it, because one of them saw it on the left side, and the other saw it on the right side. Somebody was a block down the road.
I don't disagree with you. Help me understand the tension there, because I think someone's going to say, just the facts, madam, just the facts. I want to know what happened.
Hey, you got it from me.
There's also probably differences in their purpose,
Okay.
like
Oh, I like that.
what they think is the most important thing to get across.
Yes. So Matthew's going to have a lot of Jewish stuff in the text. We're going to encounter a lot of Jesus and the Pharisees and the scribes butting heads. When you get to Luke, you get a lot of stuff about women. What are they doing here? You get a lot of stuff about the least, the poor, the last, the people on the margins. When you get to John, you get a lot of stuff about God. Like, you can read Mark, and I'm going to ask you the question. You go home and do it. Go read Mark, and I want you, does Jesus ever claim to be God in the Gospel of Mark? I don't think so. But did Jesus ever claim to be God in John? Well, I think so. I'm pretty sure that's why they kill him.
Yeah.
The high priest,
You have said it.
yeah, tears his clothes and says, blasphemy. You've heard it said before you now in this gathering, right? So in John, it's very much like, this purpose is that Jesus is the God-man. So maybe their authorial intent is different, and that's why we have these 4 Gospels. Do you think it strengthens the truth of God to have multiple perspectives, or does it weaken an argument for truth? Does that make sense? You think it strengthens it?
I think the pastor who told us that if you look at the resurrection, all 4 of them have one thing in common. The tomb is empty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our minds are full of Jesus from a different perspective.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
You think it's a challenge to it?
They all said, this is the way it was, exactly the same way. But we had 4 people.
Who all said it was red.
Yeah, that's what it is. Well, the other views are fine, I mean, I understand that doesn't necessarily weaken it terribly, but they all said exactly the same thing. It's like, hey, if they said the same thing, probably it was true. I don't know.
Yeah. Because I could see someone saying, oh, look, if they all said the same thing, the argument would be, look, they colluded together, they changed the story, right? They edited the details, and it's a lie. And now the fact that they are different, people are going to say, see, they can't even get on the same page. So it's a lie.
Well, some of these, I think about it like the Sermon on the Mount. I can't believe somebody was there. You know, wait a minute.
Yep. Let me get that one. Let me say, yeah. Blessed are the cheesemakers. Yeah, I got it. Right? Yeah.
Okay, now wait, what did he say
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
couldn't write it down. They
Yeah.
didn't have somebody with a pencil.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And let's take a moment too. We've talked about this to reflect on like an oral culture versus like our culture today, which is very detail oriented. You know what I mean? And the ancients just thought differently. It's kind of like when you saw your grandpa do something, or your grandma do something. You're like, how in the heck did you do that? And they're like, well, my grandpa taught me. You know, and you try and do it and you can't do it. This makes sense. It's like sometimes these things are lost over the course of generations. And I think too, the ancients probably had a penchant for oral memorization that we cannot even fathom.
They didn't have to.
They didn't have, a PDA or a pencil. Like, I just think it was different. And then they did clearly write things down because we have things in the archaeological record. So it's just fascinating to think about and a challenge.
I think that since that Jesus taught them how to pray, and that's in Matthew, I don't think he said that prayer just once.
Come on.
I think he said it over and over and over again, and therefore they learned it just by rote.
By rote.
And I think that the stories he told over and over and over. And so when the writer sets down to write this history, he remembers these things.
Okay, and
Because he's heard them over.
And you've landed on a really important adjacent thought, is that, I don't know if you all have heard a pastor preach the same sermon more than once, but they might preach it like a little differently.
Yeah.
And I'm sure even I've fallen into this pattern where like I've told you a story from the pulpit and I've told the same story again, I tell it a little bit differently. It's like, so maybe that's also some of the reason why these gospel writers have different perspectives on these stories, because they remember the story about the woman and the well, and then someone else is like, I don't remember that story, so Luke writes that, or that John writes that one, excuse me. But then it's like, Luke will remember the prodigal son, but Mark doesn't remember that parable. But you don't remember when Jesus told the parable? So, or he tells the story and it's a little different. And maybe that's why you have the Sermon on the Plain in Luke and the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew. Maybe it's the same sermon Jesus gave in two different locations. And that's why they're different.
I drink to that.
But unlike your grandfather, who told you those same old stories over and over, for 25 years, Jesus wasn't around for 25 years.
That's right, 3 if we believe John's timing.
So, I don't know that he told those over and over and over again, because he was only around for 3 years. He had a lot of stuff to say, and I don't know if he dwelled on one story, but he spread out all the information with a lot of things, a lot of stories. So I don't know that he would have repeated those things over and over and over.
I don't know. Yeah, I could see him repeating some. Maybe he didn't repeat all of them. Or maybe it was such a huge impact. I would like to think that if I saw someone multiply loaves of bread and feed 5,000 people, I'd be like, I should probably write that down, and they did. So there are things that appear in all 4 Gospels, and those are important things to raise your eyebrows about. I see a few more hands, then we'll move on.
Are there also times that, all the disciples weren't there?
We're not or were?
Were not.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Right.
some heard that.
That's right.
And some heard this.
And this is something that I did not know. This is going to sound stupid, but maybe you all are better Bible scholars than I am. I was reading, get this, I was reading the Gospel of Matthew a little more closely, and I was reading in Matthew 5, which is the Sermon on the Mount. Let me do it real fast to give you an example of what you're saying. So when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him, and he began to speak and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit. Okay, so here's a very quick question. Who is the Sermon on the Mount pointed to? It's to the disciples. Yo, I thought it was to, everybody. You know what I mean? Because you've all seen all the pictures in all the Bibles where Jesus is up there and he's teaching to all the people. Well, if you're to read the Bible, Pastor, you'd see that that's not true. And then you have events where Jesus takes, Peter, James, and John. They always get to go on special field trips with Jesus. So he gets to go up on the mountaintop of the Ascension, which is in Matthew, halfway through. And they see the heavens opened up. And they come back and they have to try to explain it to the disciples. In Matthew, Levi, if we believe that's him, he wasn't on that special excursion. So it's a story he's hearing from Peter and he's writing down.
Okay, but what he said,
Who's he?
Jesus, what he said and what he did, is different. What he did would leave an impact. They see him heal a blind man, and this guy gets up and can see, they're gonna remember that. I mean, they're gonna know, I mean, it's like, whoa. I mean,
Yes.
What he said, not so much. I mean, you did a very nice sermon last Sunday.
You don't remember what I said? Come on!
But no kidding.
I know, right? I'm with you.
When you hear somebody, yeah, that's good. And now, there are a bunch of you, they're like, he said cheesemakers. No, he didn't either. Okay, well, you talk about it, but that rolls off. I mean, it's gone. Once he says it, it's gone. If you don't remember it, you don't remember it. And 2 or 3 days down the road, you go, what did he say?
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you see him raise somebody from the dead, or make a blind man see, or heal a cripple or a leper, you go, whoa,
That's right.
This is a real deal.
That's right. So I'm with you. I'm challenged by some of the teachings of Jesus, and I always had professors and mentors that say, you need to read it with a holy skepticism. And I think that that's really fair, to come to the Bible and say, well, I wonder. And I don't think, I'm talking for myself, you all might disagree with me, that's okay. My faith is not falling apart because of that. It's okay, I think, to hold these things that we call our sacred texts and to let it read us, and we read it, and we say, I think that's the point. So I don't hold a literalist interpretation of these texts. I think sometimes when Jesus is speaking, he's being literal, and I think Matthew wants us to understand him as literal. But Jesus is clearly using metaphor in other places.
Okay, but if when he did these miracles,
Come on.
if they were there and they witnessed that, how in the world could they not understand and believe who this man was? Now, if somebody told them, hey, I saw that, they go, yeah, I mean, really? Or was he just, fluttering his eyes around and then ran into a post? I mean, if they didn't witness this,
I
and
know.
they were told,
I know.
then it's a different ballgame.
I think though the gospel writers know the human heart. And we've all seen things that we're like there's like those captions on YouTube, like if it wasn't on camera, you wouldn't believe it. And like it's true. Or then even when you're there, you're like, did that just happen? Like small examples. This is a silly example because you got me here right now playing right. So like you're in the pantry and like something falls and you catch it real quick and you're like, there's no way, no way. You know what I mean? And then you start to like second guess yourself. You're like, that didn't happen. Or it's like I believe that like when these miracles happened, I guarantee you people saw them and goes, that girl wasn't dead to begin with. I just think that's human nature. That dude wasn't blind, he's a faker. Panhandling faker. Taking advantage of the system. Probably on food stamps and Medicaid. Right? I think that's what people think. Jesus didn't really heal him. They were in cahoots together. That blind person out there, right? They're trying to get people to follow this rabbi around. I'm not going to let people follow around a false teacher. I just think that's the human nature in us. I don't know. It probably doesn't answer your question.
But some of those people.
Come on, last time.
Knew that those people were blind, or they knew that person had been lame.
You're right.
Forever.
And the world's transformed because of it.
And they see this and go, I've known that gal or that guy for 35 years. They were blind.
Yes.
And they're seeing now. So somebody knew the truth.
Yes.
Yeah, because they were around those people.
And I think that's evidence that these gospel writers are onto something. Right? Like something clearly happened because here we are in Greenwood, Indiana, 2,000 years later talking about this still. So this dude who walked around in Galilee 2,000 years ago either was who he says he was or he wasn't. Make up your mind.
Somebody told me once that the first 12 chapters of Matthew, Jesus is out teaching to anybody who would listen, his disciples who were chosen I ran them anyway. But when he went to the mountain or when he was at the lake or wherever he was, that he often had an audience like the 5,000 that he fed and so on. But the last 12 chapters, he's teaching just to his
Disciples.
because he's getting them ready for what is going to
Yeah, when he's gone. Yeah. John has a farewell discourse. I think it's John chapter 15 through 17. I think I shared from the pulpit that in the Gospel of Mark, he stops doing miracles entirely in the back half of Mark. I can't speak to Luke because, again, I haven't taught it. I've read it, but I haven't done this. And we'll find out. We'll find out the pattern in Matthew.
I think the parables, and not parables, I think that the miracles were done as a convincing thing. Hey, look at me, I'm special. See what I can do.
Yeah. I think John uses the word signs.
Well, okay.
No, I'm with you. They point to him, right?
Yeah, I agree. That, I never thought of it as being, in my mind, I guess signs or miracles. When it's Jesus.
They're the same.
Yeah.
Did I hear you correctly? That's what I think as well. Yeah, that's how I read it. And if you disagree, that's okay. You're welcome to disagree. You're wrong. Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's okay if I disagree.
That's right.
It's okay if
Yeah.
Matt disagrees.
Yeah. Okay, so here is a quick.
You know what? I like it. I like it when people question.
Yes,
what I read.
it is healthy and helpful. So here's one of our oldest extant texts from the Gospel of Matthew. You all know that I'm a big history nerd. So this is Papyrus 104, which is being housed in England, along with all the other stolen artifacts of the world. And so it is Gospel, Matthew 21, 34 through 37. It's just a little chunk and text of it. But whenever I see stuff like that, I'm just always in awe. This dates from let me see what the date is. I think I got my notes here. It is from the late 2nd century, so it's probably 180. Isn't that crazy? I can't even, I got some paperbacks that are falling apart, and this thing is almost 2,000 years old. And that's that. Okay, so Matthew 1 through 2 is going to explain Jesus' origin, and then chapters 3 through 4 are going to explain sort of his preparatory stage. You're going to have stuff in there about John the Baptist and about his temptation and all that jazz. But I want to read Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 through 17. And of course, my projector cuts off the first letter there. So I'll do my best here. All right, an account of the genealogy. I'm going to pause for a moment and say genealogy, also the word there can be birth. The word is where we get the word Genesis from. So that's in Greek. So it would literally read, an account of the Genesis of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers. And Judah the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar, and Perez the father of Hezron, and Hezron the father of Aram, and Aram the father of Amminadab, and Amminadab the father of Nahshon, and Nahshon the father of Salmon, like the fish, and Salmon the father of Boaz by Rahab, and Boaz the father of Obed by Ruth, and Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. All right, what names stuck out to you in those first 6-ish verses?
The patriarchs.
The patriarchs?
Up first.
So Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There's a lot of fathers. That's right. In fact, we're going to figure out it's a whole bunch of generations, and there's a reason for that. So Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Judah is there.
Yeah.
All right? None of them in the familiar. So let's walk through some of them. Okay, so Ruth and Boaz. We know Ruth. She's got a book of the Bible named after her. Okay? And Boaz is the guy who redeems Ruth, right? Boaz will also be like great-great-grandpa to King Solomon. So when they build the temple, they name one of the pillars on the porch Boaz. Okay, who's Rahab?
Rahab is not Jewish.
She's not Jewish. She's also a,
Bad woman.
well, I was going to say, she's a she, right? She's a she. She's a bad woman. What do you mean by that? How is she bad?
She owned the brothel.
Yeah, she's a prostitute. She is a lady of the night.
She even had a red ribbon hang out the door.
So Rahab is found in the book of Joshua. She's the one who helps the spies who come into the city, right, to kind of spy out the world, the land beyond the Jordan. And then she lowers, they come up the city wall and all that, and then they're able to sack the city, and the Israelites kill everybody except for her. And she's allowed to live with Israel all the days of her life. Crazy story. I cannot believe that a woman of ill repute is in the lineage of Jesus. I don't know about your pedigree, but my pedigree is much cleaner than Jesus', right? That's right. That's right. Yeah. Or maybe there's a reason she's included. Okay, so let's keep going here a little bit. What about Tamar?
Yes, good girl.
Okay. Right?
Married, well, there's two Tamars. But
There are two Tamars.
the one that was married to Judah's two sons.
Okay. You have Judah, and Judah is the father of Perez, and Zerah by Tamar. Tamar is a woman in Genesis. And some things do not go super great.
No, her first two husbands died, two brothers. And she's not really a prostitute, she just pretends she's one.
Yeah, she's not a prostitute, and Judah takes advantage of her. There's a bad piece of Jesus' history there. But a history nonetheless, found in the book of Genesis. And these are just names.
You know what?
Come on.
If
Come on.
If they were all perfect, it would be harder to believe.
It would be. It would be, right? So there's something happening here in the genealogy. And I'll refer to some of my notes here so I can get it right. I think that what's happening is this is placing Jesus in line with Israel's story and God's redemptive act through Israel. God's redemptive act begins with Abraham. God makes covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the blessing is through their generations. And so it comes all the way down. And now we're going to see this is from Abraham, so the patriarchs, and it goes to where all the way at the end here? King David.
You know, they don't include it, but he also makes a deal with Noah.
He does, yeah, and that would be the pre-Abraham, and it's a different sort of covenant, but you're correct, there's a covenant there. So from Abraham all the way down to David, we remember that David is the son of Jesse, right? This is Samuel the prophet. He goes to Jesse and he's like, okay, we need a king. The whole entire Saul thing is not working out great. So we're going to find one for you. And Jesse's like, I have a bunch of kids, let me get them all here. You'll know the story. I'm going to tell it anyways because it's good. They line them all up, and they go, is it this one? No, he goes down the line. And then Samuel's like, you got any more? And Jesse's like, I got one more, you don't want them. And then he's like, bring him in here. So they bring him in, it's the runt of the litter, right? And it's King David. And he's the one that gets anointed. And that's who that is a man after God's own heart. Now David, of course, has some problems. We might find out about that. Here we go. This is in 6b, and we'll read through 11. And David was the father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah, and Solomon the father of Rehoboam, and Rehoboam the father of Abijah, and Abijah the father of Asaph, and Asaph the father of Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat the father of Jerome, and Jerome the father of Uzziah, and Uzziah the father of Jotham, and Jotham the father of Ahaz, and Ahaz the father of Hezekiah, and Hezekiah the father of Manasseh, and Manasseh the father of Amos, and Amos the father of Josiah, and Josiah the father of Jeconiah, and his brothers at the time of the deportation to Babylon. What do you notice about this one?
That, we looked up Jehoshaphat one time in Sunday school. Dr. Small was still living and coming all the time. He said, I've got to look it up. And he says, that's just the radio, telephone. And the first thing it said is, Jehoshaphat has nothing to do with jumping Jehoshaphat.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, those are funny things. Okay. But what else do you notice in these first couple verses here? Excuse me, these next couple verses. The names aren't as familiar to us necessarily. Okay, and that's okay. So we got David, he's the father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah. Yeah, so the wife of Uriah is Bathsheba. We'll remember. Not even mentioned by name. Yeah, because that was scandalous, nasty. Here's the quick story, right? David is on the porch of the palace, taking in a little voyeurism, as young boys do. And out, bathing in the courtyard is this really hot girl. And David's like, let's bring her up here, right? And it's fine. And then they have relations, and she's pregnant. But Uriah, her husband, is away at war. Maybe. And then they try to do a whole entire cover-up for the pregnancy, and that doesn't work. Because Uriah is more righteous than David. Don't get me started. And so David's like, I guess I got to kill him. And so David, plans some sort of murder during the war. Good. And then it's not good. But out of that union comes Solomon. And Solomon was apparently one of Israel's wisest kings. It's complicated. But notice, right, that the lineage is being traced through David. And that's important. Matthew wants you to know that Jesus' lineage is going through David, and it begins at Abraham. Pop quiz. Where does Luke begin Jesus' genealogy?
From Abraham. No,
Shall we look?
from all the way back.
All the way back.
He goes all the way back to Adam.
He goes all the way back to Adam. Matthew, Mark, Luke. When you all find it, just say it nice and loud.
Luke 1 or 2, 3 maybe.
I found it. It's in Luke chapter 3, 23, right? It says Jesus was about 30 years old and he began his work. He was the son of Joseph, and Luke's going to work backwards.
Yes.
So he was the son of Joseph, which I want to be like, Luke, is he? Right? Oh, the son of Joseph, son of Heli, all the way down, yada, 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 son of Isaac, and 34, yada, 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 son of Canaan, son of Enos, son of Seth, son of Adam, son of God. Son of God. So that's how Luke wants you to know the genealogy. So immediately you can say, look, these genealogies are concocted. And I'm going to say, oh yeah, they're concocted for a reason, right? Matthew wants you to know. It's similar when you tell your own genealogy. You might linger on your great-great-grandma because she was a saint. And then you're going to say, and then her mom was fine. And you're going to go on to the next one, right? It's like, you're going to keep going. You got to get to the point. And the point is what the author wants you to see. So Luke wants to connect it to Adam. And there's a reason. Matthew wants to connect it to Abraham, to David, all the way down to the deportation of Babylon. So we will remember that Judah is faithful, the northern kingdom's deported, the southern kingdom also kind of gets deported, and it's not good, right? They get sent away from their homeland because, remember, the Assyrians, who become the Persians, right, who are all those people, who are all sort of the same people, the Babylonians, they come in and they are not nice, and they are sent to deport the Jewish people and take them out of their homeland. And the question often is, where is God's faithfulness and covenant in the middle of the uncertainty here? So this is where it wraps up. After the deportation to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Salathiel. I'm going to switch down to my Bible here so I can follow along. And Salathiel, the father of Zerubbabel. Nailed it. And Zerubbabel, the father of Abiud. And Abiud, the father of Eliakim. And Eliakim, the father of Azor. And Azor, the father of Zadok. That's a great name. And Zadok the father of Achim, and Achim the father of Eliud, and Eliud the father of Eleazar, and Eleazar the father of Mathan, and Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom Jesus was born, who is called the Messiah.
And that's on the other side.
Yeah, and here's the last verse. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, and from David to the deportation to Babylon are 14 generations. And from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. Now there's some wordplay happening here and some poetry that we don't understand because we don't know Hebrew. But if you spell out 14, in Hebrew, it's like DVD or David. So it's going to read David, David, David. And that's kind of what it's supposed to do. Like, he's David's lineage king guy. Okay? That's some of the undertone there. Some of the other tones are just the way that this is structured. That there's really multiple groups of 7, right? 14 divided by 2 is 7. So there's 6 groups of 7. So there's a group of 7, then an action. A group of 7, a group of 7, and then an action. Then a group of 7, then a group of 7, then an action. And that action is the birth of Jesus. And so Jesus is like the 7th 7. He's like the perfect king. The David, perfect 7 king guy. Lineage back to Abraham. And if you're reading that from a Jewish perspective, you really can't miss it. It's fairly intentional. We read it in English and we go, I can't pronounce these names, right? But right, yeah. But that's sort of the intent there, is to understand it that way. Let me get back to my notes here as we're wrapping up. So,
Ask a question.
no more questions. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Please.
Well, I just find it interesting that I get all that. So they go all the way to Joseph, who, if you believe the virgin birth, had nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
I thought exactly that.
Nothing. Right. So, I'm not sure we have time for this. You know, part of us needs to wrestle with part of us needs to wrestle with patrial, the lineage through the male. There's a term that's escaping me. Yeah, there's a technical term, and I'm going to move on because I'm going to be too nerdy. So, you know, the idea of man to man to man, so that whole thing. And then there's also the idea that, like, if you are a son, even if you are an adopted son, you have a right to your father's kingdom. That's a part of it. Part of us just also honestly needs to wrestle with why this virgin birth thing. And, you know, that's like a problem for Luke, a little bit of a problem for Matthew. Matthew talks about it a little bit.
Well, it was in the prophets. They said there'd be a virgin birth.
Yes, and the question is, who does that relate to?
Well, who else?
I know.
Okay, who was Mary chosen by Joseph? Or Joseph's the connection. It ain't Mary, it's Joseph.
In Matthew.
He's
Mm-hmm.
the guy. And he is the connection, the lineage. Well, Mary, happens to be whatever. So did Joseph pick her? Or did somehow or another God say,
When you
you're
look
going to
at the,
marry?
He was in
Or what did he say, how about Frida? She's okay.
Yeah.
And I had never thought about this until just tonight. Joseph always gets short shift.
Oh, yeah, he
He's
does.
the guy, Mary, adored, adoration, virgin birth. Joseph just,
He's along for the ride.
along for the ride. That is the
Except he
case.
brings the lineage.
Yeah.
He's the guy that's connected.
the other lineage goes to Mary. The one that Matthew does goes to Mary.
Look, I've done my job here. This is all I'm saying, is that we are looking at this with fresh eyes, and I wish I had clearer answers, but I don't. Let me just say a few more things. So by tracing lineage through David and through Joseph, what that does is it gives Jesus royal lineage. And, okay, so this means Jesus is the King of the Jews.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to read a little bit with what we already read tonight. So hear this differently, right? So this is in Matthew, right? So Jesus has that lineage. He's David. He's the king. I'm going to say it again. He's the king. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born, King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising, and we have come to pay him homage." So immediately there's drama being set up on the stage. There's the king, who's the king of the kings of King David, who's here, who's born. And then it goes right into this guy named King Herod. He's king, not Jesus. They don't want to share. There's only room in this town for one king. Right? And the question is, well, who's going to be the king? So that's one of the intents here. So this lineage will complement and contrast with the lineage of Jesus and Luke. And so therefore there are theological implications. I'll say it again. There are theological implications for why Matthew writes his gospel with the lineage that he does and why Luke writes his gospel the way that he does. And I don't have all the answers for you. I have some, I think, and I'm still discovering some, and some of you probably have others. And so I hope and pray that as we keep walking through these texts, we will keep asking good, holy questions and wrestling with it, and maybe come out on the other side with some answers and some more questions. And we can come back to Matthew when we are all older and wiser.
Next week.
Next week. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. I will stay and linger if you have other things you'd like to talk about. But I want to honor our time.
Opening.
Thank you.
Someone say a prayer on the radio the other day, it said in the Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Uh-huh. That would be fitting. That would be fitting. So we'll pick up with the wilderness tempting next week, Matthew 4, verses 1 through 11. All right, let me offer a word of prayer as we go from here. God, as we lay our head down this evening, we pray that you would bring us rest. We pray that these passages, these words, these texts would continue to inform our mind and our heart and our spirit, and that we would wrestle with them and be transformed in the process. And so we pray this all in your Son's name. Amen. All right, thanks y'all for being here. I appreciate you.
That was great last
Good to be with you.